Hello, everyone, and welcome to Respawning Fire, the kick-ass irreverent gaming podcast, no longer from Affable Idiots, despite what you might have seen in the intro video. I'm one of your hosts, Alexander Kazina, aka Cozy Bear, and this is our Backlog Accomplishment with Respawn and Friends review, also known as our BARF review of Clair Obscur Expedition 33, also known as Clair Obscur Expedition 33. That's me doing my John Wayne American accent voice. Joining me this evening for this review is the one and only Chad Michael Innes.
I knew we shouldn't have let the Frenchman speak the French title. I knew it.
And joining me as well is the man of the hour, Adam Gumbert.
John Wayne's American accent is just John Wayne speaking.
Whoa. And on the ones and twos, as always, is the venerable, illustrious Joel Campos.
Did you guys see that Dwayne The Rock Johnson is skinny now, and it's freaking the internet out?
Oh, shit.
Nope, gotta Google it. Hold, please.
I was going to say, he pulled a Batista. And joining us as an extra special guest on this episode is the one and only Jerica Hannah.
Oh, hey. I'm here.
Hello, hello.
And
joining
see the
us...
Rock with less muscles.
It's I shudder to imagine what it must look like right now. And joining us as well on this episode, as an extra special guest as well, is Dave McQueen. Hello, Dave.
I can't think of a fun quip.
All right. And that will be your quip from here on out. You always have to say that from here on out whenever you appear on any of our podcasts in the future. It's a binding contract. Before we get into the swing of things, remember that you can catch regular episodes of the Respawning Fire podcast live on twitch.tv/RespawnAimFire. We have officially changed our Twitch channel name. It is now twitch.tv/RespawnAimFire. We will say this multiple times over the course of the next several episodes. So if you forget it now, we will remind you in the future.
All these big tech companies, Sam Altman out there being like, AI is the future, AI is the future, and they're burning this country to the ground. John Wayne is dead because of them, and we wanted to distance ourselves from AI. So we decided we're going to get rid of that acronym. We are Respawning Fire now.
No, we actually sold twitch.tv/Affable Idiots for $5 million.
Yeah, we're actually rich right now. We don't even need to be here, but we're here because we love you. Twitch.tv/RespawningFire every Monday evening at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, as well as on YouTube and podcast services the following Wednesday. But this is no regular episode. This is our BARF review for July and August of 2025. At the beginning of every month, or every 2 months, we ask you to go to patreon.com/RespawningFire to vote on a game for us to play throughout the month or a couple of months. And this past, I accidentally wrote the word January in here because I copied it over from a month where it was January's BARF game. This past July is what I should actually say. We asked you to choose between 4 acclaimed titles that released in the first half of this year. They were Blueprints, South of Midnight, Doom, The Dark Ages, and Clair Obscur Expedition 33. And you all voted for us to play Expedition 33. Now, I will still continue to occasionally host and chime in and have lots to say on this episode. However, this was technically Joel's BARF Patreon thing. He did sign off on it. So, Joel, I believe that you have some directions that you would like to take the podcast in from here.
Yeah, so I kind of just split this up into some different categories to talk about the game. First, are we just going full spoilers all out?
100%.
Like, what's the plan?
Spoil
okay.
everything and everyone.
All right. So if you don't want to hear about Dumbledore in this game, you need to leave the live stream right now or close the video, go play the game. If you don't care, just stay and listen. It's all a good time. So in honor of our guests being here, Jerica, give me a number 1 through 5.
5.
5. You have selected art, music, and atmosphere. So I just want to open.
I like how this is
the
going.
Discussion. I just want to open floor of discussion for the art, music, and atmosphere of this game. Obviously, the music is like probably the most iconic music in a game this year in my mind. It sticks out like a sore thumb because I listen to it on Spotify, probably at least once a week while I'm working. So yeah, I'm just gonna open the floor. Cozy, Tell me about the art, music, and atmosphere in Clair Obscur Expedition 33 and what you thought of it.
Ooh, it's an interesting format for this episode because I feel like as we go down the topic list, my opinions will get more and more critical, but we're starting in a good place. The atmosphere music of Expedition 33, I think, really fantastic. I really love this game's soundtrack. I think that the overworld theme when you're traveling around the Paintress's domain is really, really lovely. It's this game, I think, does such a great job of just painting a really kind of, and didn't even intend that as a pun, really just painting a really kind of melancholic atmosphere that occasionally has, moments of humor and brightness that shine through. I think that they really kind of managed to just achieve something really lovely here. And obviously, if we're talking about this game's overall kind of atmosphere, we can't not just give a huge shout out to just how amazingly French this game is. When they reveal at the very beginning of the game that the phenomenon where people get just blighted out of existence whenever the paintress paints their age on the monolith, when they reveal that that's called the gommage, I was like, man, so many other games out there would just call it like, oh, it's the blight, it's the corruption. Every year, the paintress paints her number on the monolith, and then the blight takes all those who are of that age. And so the fact that they had the balls to be like, nope, it's the gommage, we're going to be just unerringly French with this game, huge shout out to them for just being so incredibly confident and ballsy in that regard.
Yeah, I probably should have started by asking, did everybody beat the game? I beat the game.
Yeah.
I know
Yes.
Chad did. Jerica did.
Yeah.
Oh,
Adam, did you? I didn't hear you.
No.
Adam did
How
not.
far did you get?
Oh.
When I initially played it, back when it first came out, I got, I don't know how many hours. Me and Joel, we were playing at the same time. It was about the same amount of hours. And for this, I'm like, I don't like this video game, so I'm not going to force myself to play 40 hours of video game I don't like, but I did finish Act 1 because I was like, well, I know that thing happened, so I guess I might as well see it for myself. So however many hours it takes to get to the end of Act 1 is how long I did.
So have you spoiled yourself to what happens in the rest of the game?
Oh,
or are you coming into this? Okay.
No, I already know what happens. It's not a problem.
Okay.
Cool. All right. Let's see. Dave, give me a number 1 through 4.
I'm going with 3 for Dale.
nice.
That's the only answer. Let's talk about combat and gameplay mechanics. Adam, since I know you had issues with the combat and gameplay mechanics, I want you to talk about your experience with it.
Yeah, I mean, one of the main reasons I don't like this game is I don't like JRPGs, and this game being entirely that, except for French, except for Japanese. I mean, it's no fault of the game. Again, I know most people like this game. I know it's going to be on Game of the Year list. That's cool. I just don't like that kind of stuff. It bores the shit out of me. I do like them switching up by having dodging and countering. Like, that is fun. It's like, give me something fun and active to do. Again, I don't think that the countering feels great, to be honest with you. I think it's more of just like the animations where they're like, I'm going to hit, oh, wait, what? Now I slap you very slowly. It's like, okay, this is not fun, compared to like any FromSoft game. Just feels 100 times better. Sekiro feels, that's one of the best counter games. But I do like that they throw in that little twist on it to keep the turn-based stuff engaging, which I do appreciate and I do like. So shout out to them for being like, what is a fun way to do it? Dodge and parrying. Cool. And I like doing the free aiming too. That's fun as well. So I think, again, I played this way longer than I have any other JRPG because at its base, it's still a thing I don't enjoy, but they do enough to be like, okay, this is enjoyable enough for me to do 8 hours of it compared to 1 hour and be done for the rest of my life. So yeah, good gameplay. I don't have a complaint with the gameplay, really.
Yeah, for me, the parrying and dodging, the timing, I was so bad at it. I started the game on normal, played probably 10 to 15 hours on normal, and then finally I was like, I can't do this. I got to dumb it down. I'll be in this game for 200 hours if I keep it where it's at. So I dumped it down to the easiest difficulty, and that's where I played through the rest of the game, and I had a great time doing it. From then on, I fell in love with the game. Like I liked it to start, but it's the same reason I don't like Dark Souls games. Is if something is too hard, I just steer away from it. It frustrates me, and I don't play games to be frustrated usually. So yeah, I dumped it down. I enjoyed it a lot more. But yeah, I do like the the dodge and parry mechanics that the game had throughout.
I really liked the fact that you could. One, I liked the fact that you could difficulty wise like extend that window open, but I found myself. I played the whole thing on normal with the exception of one attempt at Simon, in which case I dumped it down to easy and it didn't help. But I liked the fact that you learned the enemy types and you learned their weird, stupid, tricky timing moves of them like teasing you when they're going to hit you. But if you play this game like all the way to completion, 100%, get everything in it, you fight these enemies in so many different circumstances and different versions. They're were they chromatic versions? Whatever. Yeah. You fight chromatic versions of them. You fight versions in the Endless Tower. You fight all of this kind of stuff that like you see somebody and you're like, oh, fuck, I know everything about you. I've fought you 20 times before. This is going to be real easy. And I also found that the button setups, what was it? L1 and R1 was like the default for dodge and parry. I switched it to my back paddles on my DualSense and it was so much easier, especially for those enemies that have really quick attacks in succession. I found that to be like super satisfying to play with the back paddles on there. But yeah, it was very frustrating at first to get that timing, but you just fight them so much and you just get used to it. And I loved it.
I just hated when they'd like half swing their sword. They'd be like, no,
yeah,
you're dead.
Yeah.
The tease was part of the fun. And I think like for me, like I've always played RPGs, but I've never enjoyed, like, I don't play them for the gameplay because for me, it's usually a little boring, like, especially if it's strictly turn-based, but I play them for story, characters, and, some boss fights have been worth my time, but ultimately, like, I played Sea of Stars thanks to Chad and a few other folks in my life that are like, please play this game, it's so good. And I was just like sort of turned off by how it looked. I mean, I was like, oh, it's one of those cute little pixel games, are turn-based, but there's more to it in Expedition 33 and to Sea of Stars, like having that mechanic built into each round, dodging, parrying, like made the, I don't know, like risk reward and just like moment engagement with the game like so much better for me, and it was so addicting, and I didn't expect to get addicted to this game as much as I did, and I knew as soon as I was addicted, my girlfriend was never going to stop playing, and of course she beat the game and put way more hours into it after I can always tell when a game's going to be really good if I play more than I normally would, and then Audrey plays like 300 hours whatever. But it's so much fun. It's so hard, to your point, Joel, like I had to turn it down a couple of, I forget the difficulty settings. Like, is there like 3 modes? Was it easy, normal, difficult? I don't know what they call it. Y'all remember?
I don't remember what they call it, but I think it like defaults to whatever the medium is. And then there's one lower than that.
Okay.
But in my issues is like, I would like some challenge. The one just lower than that seemed like it was way too easy. But that's where I was having fun, so I just kept it there.
When you mentioned that, I sort of thought the same thing, because like at times I would turn it down, but I'd turn it back up, because it's like different, I guess, in interactions or encounters you're in. I was just like, nah, I'm not gonna die here in the game and in real life. I need to move on. So I think the only thing with like gameplay that I got hung up on, now I'm thinking about, is probably like all the customization, which I would like to have spent more time in, like the peak dose and how you can set up your fights. And I'm sure I could have went way deeper. I just didn't have the time to do it. I had to get on to the next game. But I appreciate the levels of customization and how you could play. And if you wanted this game to be super difficult, you could. And if you want it to be easy, you also could have that. So I think it's cool that anyone can, not anyone, but a vast majority of folks can enjoy this game. So
sorry, go ahead, Dave.
I was just going to say, I was a big fan of JRPGs growing up, from like Final Fantasy VI, Chrono Trigger, 7, 8, 9. I played a ton in the early 2000s, like Legend of Dragoon, which I don't know if you guys ever played, but very similar to this. I
was playing that last week.
You've got the timing with the buttons during your kind of offensive phase. I really enjoyed having like a turn-based defensive phase, like with the evasion and the countering and the parrying. I thought that was a really nice touch. I really like how the mechanics expand as the story progresses and the world expands as well. You know, like the whole suite of Pictos and the amount of damage you can create, the levels of customization is in parallel with how much the story expands. Like your access to the world map is in, you know, invert or not. It's just like proportionate to the amount of damage you can create or the amount of interesting setups you can build. And one thing that I really enjoyed was the item mechanics. Like I always hoard items, but now I just have 7 of them. I always have 7 of them, and I just like reload them. I think there was a lot of like thoughtful, optimizations to the JRPG model that they incorporated, and I was really appreciative of that.
Yeah, I've played a lot of games that feature some sort of parry system, and this game might legitimately feature my favorite parry system of any video game. As has already been said, I really loved the way that the kind of parry system expands over time. The Pictos and Lumina system, I agree, is like pretty meaty. There's a lot to kind of wrap your head around there, but once I was able to wrap my head around it enough, I really loved building out Pictos and Luminas that really kind of complemented my playstyle. What I did is I focused on a lot of Luminas that would give me benefits when I would successfully pull off parries, and also, and I really appreciated this, Luminas that would basically give my characters all sorts of buffs whenever a character would faint. Because it's one of those things where like I'm pretty good at parrying, but I can be a little bit sloppy as well. And I appreciate that the game's like, oh, if this character dies, everyone else gets healed. The enemy gets burned. The enemy gets damaged. And I would use that to my advantage, basically debuff the enemy whenever a character would die, and then use that like temporary reprieve to then heal the character that just got killed, and then kind of continue the cycle. And so I really enjoyed that.
I played a lot of Act 3 with a build on one of my characters that it's the Picto that kills you immediately when you join battle. And so they would die, and that would trigger everyone immediately gets shields, everyone immediately gets a bunch of AP, everyone immediately can, like, the enemy gets damaged, all of that kind of stuff. And then the auto revive Picto right along with it, so that they just immediately come back to life and they're ready to go. And that was so cool that you could build something around that.
You guys are describing a completely different game than what I played, because when I play a game like this, I did not go into the Pictos or Lumina at all. Like I probably set one in Act 1, didn't go back. I did not look at any of that shit.
Wow.
That's not to say, like, when I was running around the map and I saw something shiny, I was going and picking it up. Did I know what that thing did? No fucking clue. I was into this game solely for the combat and story. The combat and story had me hooked. But the mechanics, obviously, if I went in and did those Pictos and Lumina, or at least even if I Googled it, I'm sure I could have found some really cool builds to like go and do. Because I heard Chad and Audrey talking about like builds that they had done that were like, at least before they got patched out, they were like breaking the game, right? Like doing like 2 million damage in one turn or something.
Literally billions of damage.
Yeah, like you could just beat the final boss of the game just in one hit. But yeah, I didn't do any of that. So like, I would be excited if they came out with a Game of the Year edition, just added some sort of extra content in some way to make me want to go back and do a New Game Plus and kind of see some of those through.
I do wish that...
Good.
Sorry, one last thing about these like Pictos and Luminas. I love that there are so many and you can mix and match, and like you can break the game in a bunch of different ways. And there's no like right way or like most powerful build, because at least there wasn't when I was playing it at launch, but I love going to Reddit and be like, what's the most powerful broken thing? And it was like a bunch of people saying, oh, this build with Mael is like unbeatable and like it's completely the best thing in the world. But then somebody else was like, actually, but have you done this thing with CL? Because this is also that good. And then somebody's like, well, actually, have you done this thing with like another character? And it was like everything was, you could find a way to do it. I think the biggest thing that was frustrating about all of that is that the menu system for exploring and equipping those things, as soon as you get above like, I don't know, maybe 30 of these Pictos, it's such a slog to go through. And of course, there's no loadout system. So if you're like, all right, I need to swap things up real quick just for this one boss that I'm fighting, you can't easily just hit a button and go back to the setup you had before. So yeah, if there's a game of the year edition that like addresses that, which I think they did say it, like loadouts is on their roadmap. Like
That's awesome.
Can't wait to go back.
That deterred me from going deeper. So I'm so glad you brought that up because I was just like, there's no way I want to read through all these lines of different, and what they do was just like, it made me want to gouge my eyes out a few times. But I'm like, I appreciate all these options though. I'm so glad it exists. I'm just like, ooh, I wish there was a way to save what I just had because I just unequipped something and now my build's broken. I wasn't doing what I was doing. I'm like, what do I do to fix it? I don't remember.
Yeah, if I had, go ahead.
I would just you would equip them as you find them throughout the game so that, you make them available for everyone. And all of a sudden I'm playing and something great's happening to one of my characters. And I'm like, what's going on? Like, why do they have shields? What did I do? What happened to them? And so that, kind of.
Yeah. If I had like one critique of the battle system overall, I'd say I think that the game doesn't always necessarily do a great job of kind of onboarding you into how some of its more complicated systems work. I remember being very early on presented to how Loon or CL's specific, systems work, where Loon has like her streaks that she generates when she does certain attacks, and she can absorb certain streaks to make attacks stronger, or CL has her own thing where she's basically like attributing cards and then absorbing cards to do more damage, and then she can go into Twilight mode. I remember that stuff being pretty confusing at first, but after like enough battles and enough experimentation, it does eventually click, and I did eventually have a lot of fun with those systems, but the onboarding can be a little bit rough at times.
Just a heads up, in the John Wayne version of the game, our little foot beautiful lady is pronounced Lune.
Oh, is that so?
I don't know if it's like pronounced Lune in the French version, but
it is. It is Lune. La Lune. La Lune.
Loon. All right, let's go on to another topic. Chad, give me a number 1 through 3.
Wait, we already chose 3, didn't we?
Yeah, but I crossed it out. 1 through. Just give me 1 through 3.
I'm gonna do. What's 3 again? I'm gonna do 3.
All right. 3. Wait, hold on.
Oh, I broke it.
I got confused myself. Hold on. Hold on. Which one did we just talk about? Combat.
Gameplay.
Combat.
We've done art. We've done combat.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Exploration and progression. Outside of battle, Expedition 33 mixes linear levels with broader overworld known as the continent. You can follow the main path, but there are plenty of side quests, merchants, optional bosses, and collectibles to reward exploration. The exploration flags work as rest points, letting you haul, upgrade, and regroup. Clearly inspired by Souls games, but with a painterly twist. Yeah. Who has any strong feelings about the exploration and progression within the game? Cozy. Cozy's waiting.
I have, this is where I'm mixed on this stuff. Had fun exploring a lot of the individual enclosed areas. I think that overall the level design in this game is pretty solid, pretty good. Did not appreciate the fact that this game really, really desperately needs maps when you're inside a lot of these enclosed areas.
100%.
The game is frequently incredibly beautiful and incredibly detailed, but that level of beauty and detail is something of a double-edged sword. And there were many times where I was like, man, I could really, really appreciate a map when exploring some of these individual areas. The overworld obviously does have a map, and I really do appreciate that map. I think it's very beautiful to behold. However, I did find myself missing a couple of things in the map, wanting a couple of things that it did not have. I really wish that, and this actually goes back to a game we referenced earlier in the podcast, Sea of Stars, where I wish that, like in a game like Sea of Stars, the game would better indicate whether or not I visited certain areas and like to what level of completion I've achieved in certain areas. Especially when I got into the end game, it was sort of hard to keep track of like what areas have I visited or not visited and how much of them have I completed sort of so far. I wish that the game did a better job of marking that. And also with a lot of these harder optional side areas, I wish that the game did a better job of being like, hey, this particular enemy right now is something that you'll be able to face in like 5 levels from now. And this enemy, you'll have to be at like level 99 if you ever want to fight them. I felt that the game's sort of like system of just being like, oh, this particular area is a dangerous area. It didn't provide me, the player, with enough information of what I should be aiming for if I want to complete a lot of these higher level areas. Last thing I'll say, sorry, give me just a moment. I have literally 10 pages of notes and I got to find what it is that I wanted to get to. Go
thing
ahead.
about like warning you of things being harder than maybe you are ready for right now. I love that it gave me the option. Like the
of course.
The first sheep boss, like the pink sheep that you can go in, it's like danger. It's like, oh, what is this about? And I walk in there and I fucking spend 45 minutes just parrying my way through that, trying to figure out all of its moves. And then you walk out of that with a super powerful Picto. Or in like Act 3, where there's this, I can't remember the name of it, but it's a place up in the sky that I ran into really early. And I kind of did the same thing where I worked my way through, like suffered through the first boss or two of that area. And from them dropped these incredibly high level Pictos and incredibly high level weapons that then like skyrocketed me in capability. It's like, oh, now other things are like super easy. Or now I suddenly am able to tackle the rest of this thing because I suffered through that first boss. And that made the rest of the game super fun to play.
I want to stress that, like, I totally appreciate that as well. I love that the game lets you attempt a lot of these areas that you're not ready for yet. And there were definitely a few areas that were listed as dangerous on the map that I still managed to struggle through as well. I'm totally fine with that. I just wish that the game communicated a little bit better. Like, here is how dangerous this dangerous area is proportionally to the other dangerous areas.
Maybe
Other thing
like
that I wanted to go
a
ahead.
gradient of red.
Oh.
Other thing I will say real quickly is, as I was progressing through the campaign along the Golden Path, I did find myself wishing that the game offered more optional areas where I could kind of go and grind. There were many instances playing through the campaign where I was like, man, I'm getting my ass kicked by this one roadblock, by this one boss in this one area. And my only option, if I want to kind of grind up my characters right now, is just to go back through the route that I previously took to get here. So many of the other like optional areas, like along the kind of golden path of the game, are like incredibly hard, or like they're those like little enclosed areas that will offer you like a record or some like other item or attribute or what have you that obviously are appreciated but don't give you any grinding opportunities. I remember getting to the shortly after you meet Minoko at his like little like Iceborne area and you meet up with the Grandies. The Grandies are like, yo, if you have the opportunity, we would appreciate it if you went to this like Ice Mountain and accomplish this other task for us. And I was like, okay, cool. Like in any other RPG, this would basically the game be signposting like, you can go and complete the main objective now, but there's also this side objective for you to rack up some more experience points on the side concurrently to the main objective. And I remember going to the Ice Mountain that they told me about, and it's like, no, this is something I can't attempt now at all. It's way too difficult. Why would they even offer me the opportunity here? And that was at that particular point in the game, the point where you finally fight Renoir for the first time, which is a really tough boss battle. And it's like, man, this is really an opportunity where I really wish that the game had given me more, again, chances to grind up beyond just the, areas relegated to the Golden Path. Anyways.
That whole as I was talking with Audrey and I basically texted the entire way through this whole game, like night after night after night. And Audrey was like, I'm at this point, I don't understand why. I was like, wait, do you have this Picto? And she's like, no, that sounds like an amazing thing. I can't remember which one it was. I was like, yeah, that's how I beat that boss. That's how I got through that area. She's like, where did you find that? I was like, I don't know. And I looked up, it was that ice place right after you get Monoko there. And it's like, oh yeah, I went in there and I just like ran around all the enemies so I could pick up all the high level shit. I did the same thing with the like shipwreck area where the people in cloaks with the hands for faces. And I just like spent maybe about 10 minutes, sleuthing my way around there, trying to get them to chase after me so that I could lead them away and then go back and grab whatever high level shit was there. And so, yeah, those areas, I didn't struggle a lot through this game or feel the need to grind because I kind of cheated a little bit. And led people away and
cheater,
well, I mean,
pumpkin
the
eater.
game let me do it, so it's not cheating.
Yeah. So me personally, I think that this game would have benefited greatly with some sort of map, like Cozy said, when you're within the actual spaces, because I was getting so lost at times. I felt like I was going, because I'm very much a completionist when it comes to like looking around the map of where I'm at. Like I want to look at every nook and cranny, and the number of times I would like end up in the same place and not even realize I was in the same place I already was until I saw something that I recognized. Like it drove me insane. So a mini map definitely would have helped, even if not a mini map, just a map in general that I can go on my pause screen and look at. Yeah. Let's see who's next. Adam, did I already call on you? 1 or 2? Number
No, I
one
haven't
or
done
two?
it yet. Let's do 1. Sure, why not?
Okay. Characters and party dynamics. Yeah, the mechanics for each character is tied directly to who they are as characters, right? So like CL uses the card-based foretell system, which mirrors her reliance on fate and foresight, and Mael's fencing stance reflect her discipline and adaptability. Each member has an arc tied to their looming inevitability of the gommage, but also moments of humanity, humor, and connection. That kind of feels like a whole family at the end, as you guys have all seen, except for Adam.
I know what happens.
Yeah. So just some broad questions for you all. Who stood out to you the most and why? Was it for gameplay reasons, story reasons, or both? Who wants to start?
I didn't envision like Mael being like as the center of the main focal character as much as based on like trailers and promotional things we've seen. I had no clue that she was going to be the major character. And then to the point, I don't remember what was his name, the main guy that we saw and everything that died
Robert
super
Pattinson.
early.
They really
I'm
wanted
like,
to,
what the
they really
fuck?
wanted to sell
Is
you
he
on
dead?
that.
Is he
Robert
dead? He's
Pattinson?
got to come back, right? I mean, I think I could get cosmetics for him, right? Like they're not going to remove him from the game, are they? Are they? Like 20, 30 hours later, I'm like, I guess he's gone.
It's it's one of those things where like there are a lot of RPGs out there that, you know, kill off beloved main characters in them, but there's really like there are very few RPGs that do quite what this game does. You have, and I'm going to go into some very light spoilers for some of these games, but just to use a couple of recent examples, Persona 3 has a character that dies partway through, but they're honestly pretty tertiary to the overall plot. They're only really in the game for a short amount of time. Aerith's death in Final Fantasy VII. I'm sorry if people haven't been spoiled to this. I'm so sorry. It's been 20 years. I'm sorry. She's obviously a much more significant character to the game's overall plot. Her death is incredibly tragic, but again, death happens quite a bit into the game. And, you know, especially in the context of the original Final Fantasy VII, you're not really playing from Aerith's perspective. You're playing from Cloud's. Like the closest parallel to Gustav's death in this game and Verso taking over is like something like the bait and switch at the beginning of Metal Gear Solid 2. But even there, it doesn't fully work because Solid Snake doesn't even die. He goes away and comes back later in the game. So yeah, building up.
He's just spoiling every major IP ever right now.
These are all like 20-year-old games.
Yeah,
So they've had recent remakes, but you know.
You can't spoil Metal Gear. It's impossible. You can't. Even if you do, people are like, what? It don't make sense.
But yeah, like the way that this game builds up Gustav as its central protagonist and then killing him off a third of the way through, it's a ballsy move that like there are very few parallels, especially in like the modern like AAA space. And like kudos to them for doing that.
I mean, I didn't even play as Verso for so long because I was like, fuck this guy. I want Gustav.
I was sort of like that for a little. I felt the same way for a little bit. I was like, oh no.
You know what's funny?
The dude yet.
I couldn't figure out how to like effectively play as Gustav, like using his ability and things like that. It just didn't come naturally to me. So I almost never played as Gustav before he died. And so I was like, oh, who's this new guy? Oh, he's got something cooler and better. Awesome. And so I immediately took to him because
I immediately used Verso too. Him and Mael were always my 1-2, and then my third I would kind of switch out here and there. But yeah, is there any other characters that you guys like preferred to use in your party?
I tried to have like a set group of people for the longest time, like high score weekly in there. Like for a while it was, no boys allowed. It was just the women in there. But I found myself changing up so much as I would get, new. First of all, you always had to have Monoko in my party just to get the skills.
Yeah.
That blue mage capture your creature skills kind of mechanic where he has to be in the party. So he was almost always there for me. But then by the end of the game, as I was exploring most of Act 3, it was Mael, Verso, and Monoko. And Monoko was my like suicide bomber, walk in, kill himself, get everyone else buffed up. And yeah, that was my go-to.
I always had like CL and Lune. I really appreciate CL's ability to like do damage and heal, and then also buff with those heals. And it just like, she was just like a buff machine. You could just churn them out, and you can do, I think that 0 AP move to just like cleanse your characters. But you can use that when they don't have a negative status effect. And then you can have another Pictos that spreads the positive effects. I don't know. It got crazy where everyone was just great, and then everyone I fought sucked because you just like the buffs and the debuffs with her. And then Lune, once you get like the rhythm of the stains and you start doing like the elemental genesis, and then I forget the other one that is like not the counter, but the other side of that where you just like nuke everybody like a multi-hit attack. I was just buffing. And then yeah, Monoko, because he's hilarious and fun and takes the enemy's powers. So it was just CL and Lune for me, and then third spot with just mostly Monoko or rotated out.
Yeah, CL was often basically my closest to a main character. Exactly what you're describing. I would always use the ability that would consume foretell and then also heal your party all in one go. That was like a very oft return to skill that I loved using a lot.
There's a character dynamic. This isn't like party wise, but like just character wise. I really, really loved the relationship between Verso and Monoko, because I felt like it was super interesting to explore this. What is it like for two characters to exist in a world who know they're immortal, who know that, and they've been around for decades, and they've seen everyone they love die, and they're just bored, and just like to hear them talk about their adventures and like place bets on things, and even like you could tell they've like fooled around with each other a little bit too, and they're like, maybe that's not for us, maybe who knows, let's go take a nap, I don't know. And it's like to hear how they explored their lives together. And I really just I want a prequel game of just like exploring before Expedition 33, just like what are all of the other expeditions doing, or what is Verso and Monoko doing on their little adventures off together. Like that was a really cool relationship for me to see play out.
Yeah, I want that real bad. I agree. Give me that game right now.
Also, who did everybody bang?
I didn't get to bang anybody, and I'm so mad because I'm always banging. We all bang okay. I'm always saying that. And I was very surprised because I'm talking to all these people at camp. I'm like, hey, tell me about what you got going on. But I guess I just didn't answer the right way. I don't know what I did to not have a banging moment. Wow. And I'm sad about it.
Who are...
I bang CL.
CL?
Yeah.
And Lune. You can bang them both.
You can bang Lune, but you have to turn down CL
like
3 times.
God.
Really?
Yeah.
As soon as she, you enter combat and she's like, ready... I was like, oh, you're my favorite.
I don't know when someone wants to bang, because I never picked up on anyone trying hard.
Like in real life or in game?
I don't know. I can't tell now. I thought I did. Like, what were they saying? Do you remember like some comments they made that you're like, oh, okay?
That was when they were like, I want to have sex after this battle. You didn't catch that.
And you were like,
your game was much clearer
why is
than
gender
mine.
A part of this? And you're like, and they're like, no, not sex as in like assigned sex at birth, but like I want to have sex with you.
Dang it. Maybe I should play
one of the times Jerica, actually, I think this was the last time I banged CL. She started getting in the mood by telling me about her tragic like origin story and why she is the way that she was, and then we banged. She's like, yeah, I tried to kill myself in the ocean. You want to have sex now?
I remember that conversation, but how did I not get that extra dialogue? What?
Grief is.
You had to have the history so that she'd be like, hey, one last time, because we had already banged twice before that. So.
God, 3 times? I'm gonna have to go back and like look at some of these scenes because I want to see. Like, I know obviously you don't see anything. Do you hear anything?
You get a little.
You only see the genitals.
Caption that's
just
it's super zoom close up of the genitals. You couldn't even tell whose they were. In fact, they
weren't even attached to the body.
Free porn.
It's like the old school chat rooms. It's like A = capital D, and then like
Just
It's
baguettes.
just the camera pans away, and it's just you see like a picture of like a hot cup of coffee and like a croissant dipped into the cup of coffee. And it's like, ooh. One thing I will say.
In this conversation, though, I would have appreciated like some solo missions, like me and one other character, which we got a little bit of that. Like you got like assigned like companion quests, so to speak.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'd like to, have like the game. There was a lot of story here, so maybe it would complicate things. But it would have been nice to have like because like was it Lune, like her parents were like trying to go fight. Help me with my don't remember. I know we had to go do something with her parents, like find something her parents left, like something about what they were studying here before they died. I don't know, like more of that for each character would have been cool. Like just you and that character going on this quest. And I'm always comparing every RPG to Mass Effect. So yeah, High Score Wheatley already brought it up. That's what I thought of, like more focused quests, like with you and just that character would have been cool.
That does very much feel like a sequel thing that you'd imagine that they're probably thinking of right now. Like, okay, we, somewhat, unexpectedly introduced this little sort of social link light system in the game once you enter Act 2. Now, how can we take that to the next step in the sequel, hopefully? Maybe
Mass Effect messed up everything for me, because I'd like, if there's a companion quest, I'm doing it if I want to bang them. And so like maybe I was doing too much for too many people and agreeing with too many people here. So they just thought I was interested in everybody. I don't know what happened.
You just weren't at camp enough. You just got to hang out at camp as long as possible.
It's really just, it's about that opportunity. If you're at camp, skirt pulled up, legs open, just waiting there, eventually someone's going to fall in.
I was just laying down too. Yeah. I mean, I was wide open.
Get some SKA's wine.
Yeah. He's the only one that offered me.
His tab and just
fucking barf wine. I love that.
Yeah, I also love the part when he wanted the Expedition 33 uniform, right? To be part of the team. That was cool too.
Awesome.
Cool too.
Yeah.
All right,
sorry, real quick. Shout out to SKA in general. It's very clear that SKA was very much like, these Persona games that we're very inspired by always have some sort of mascot character. You got Morgana, you got Teddy. We're just going to do our own mascot character. And I really loved SKA. Loved him a lot.
I also loved him and Francois' relationship too.
It was sick. Did you think Francois sort of looked like a clitoris? Did anyone else think that? Every time I saw it on screen, I was like,
supposed to look like?
Huh?
Up until now, I thought he was just a clitoris. What else? What else is it supposed to be?
It's a turtle, I think. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right, Cozy. Well, the
Francois. Oh, yep. That's what he is, buddy. Let me tell you.
That's a turtle. That's a turtle. All right.
A turtle, quote unquote.
So I've been going through these numbers. The last one left is story.
Yes.
So this could take a little bit here to talk about, but I do have some plot points I found online. I could go through the story unless somebody else feels like they want to go through it. Cozy, you got anything? You want to just go through the story?
A lot to say. I'm going to try to be as concise and to the point as possible, so I'm not taking up everyone's night. All right. We already talked a little bit about Gustav's death. Really love Gustav's death. That's the kind of thing where we very rarely get something like that in a AAA game like this. Number 2, really appreciated the reveal at the end of Act 2. From the perspective of, I feel like we've all played games where the game presents itself as taking place in a fantasy world. There's all sorts of fantastical stuff going on. And then it's revealed in the third act, it's actually just an analogy for some sort of real life heartbreak that this character is going through in the real world. You think that they're actually a warrior in a fantasy world, but actually their parents are getting divorced and they're going through some tough stuff. I said that very nonchalantly, but I legitimately feel like I've played a dozen games that have that exact premise. And I've always thought to myself, wouldn't it be cool if a game had this premise, but then it's revealed that the meta reality in which they actually exist in is itself a fantasy world, that it has all sorts of weird arcane rules to itself in of itself. And I really appreciated that this game straight up went for that, because conventional wisdom would say, don't do that kind of thing. That would overcomplicate the plot of your game. And so to wake up in the quote unquote epilogue at the end of Act 2 to walk through the mansion. You see the dogs nestled off in the corner. It's like, oh, they're called Noko and Minoko. Okay, I see where this is going. She lives a normal, just plain Jane existence, and she based all the characters in her, fantasy world in her head off of these things that she has in her real life. And then you enter into like the little painter's workshop, and you see that her parents are like tranced out staring into the painting, and it's like, oh no, that's not the case. This is a much weirder, deeper world than I ever could have anticipated. So really love that. Finally, at the end of Act 3, I appreciated that. Against all odds, never would have expected this. The game does a turn where it's like, yo, like Renoir, who we have very much built up as the central antagonist of this game, like is very much justified in a lot of the actions that he is doing. He might be kind of heavy-handed in terms of his approach, but like he has like totally justified reasons for him wanting to be such a villainous character. And yes, you might be kind of trying to grieve in your own way over the death of the real life Verso, but the choices that you're making here, Mael, will have consequences, and there's no kind of obvious right or wrong answer to kind of the situation that you've found yourself in. We've all played games that, attempt to kind of pull this sort of thing at the 11th hour, and I thought that Expedition 33 managed to pull it off really well in the final act of the game. I love all of that. Love all that stuff. I do have major qualms with the way that this story is doled out in Act 2. Specifically, the issue that I take issue with, that was very redundant, I probably should have phrased that differently, is I don't think... So, like, all the individual acts of the game are named after a character that is sort of central to that specific act. Act 1 is called Gustave. Act 2 is called Verso. Act 3 is called Mael. I think that Act 2 should have been called Mael, and I think that Act 3 should have been called Verso. And I think that in Act 2, I think that we should not have actually been seeing that chapter through the eyes of Verso. I think that it should have firmly placed us through Mael's eyes. So much of Act 2 is about Mael kind of taking up the mantle of responsibility from Gustave's death and her kind of trying to lead the expedition to its eventual kind of completion. During the kind of like campfire segments in that sort of section of the game, whenever you want to kind of record thoughts on, the current expedition, the perspective switches over from Verso to Mael. Even though you are otherwise playing as Verso in those segments of the game, which always kind of struck me as off. It's like, why is it that we're kind of switching between these two different characters? Shouldn't it all just sort of take place from Mael's perspective? The game wants to take place from Verso's perspective in the second act of the game, but it's weird because we're like so not privy to Verso's backstory, to what he knows about the nature of the world around him. There's like so little that we understand about him as a character and his sort of motivations, which I just think makes it weird that the second act of the game purports itself to be about Verso. And I just think that it makes much more sense to have Act 2 be about Mael. And then later on make Act 3 about Verso, because at that point, basically everything that we need to know about Verso has been busted wide open. And, so much of the kind of final culmination of that act of the game is about Verso taking responsibilities into his own hands and trying to decide the fate of the kind of world that they live in. And so, yeah, I feel very kind of mixed about all that stuff. I will also say there's a lot of great story moments in the second act of the game, but I also was sort of frustrated by just sort of how story light Act 2 was sort of overall. It felt like a lot of Act 2 was, all right, we got to go to this location to potentially do this thing. Occasionally we might run into Renoir or the other girls or the paintress that will say some spooky stuff, but we don't really understand what it means. But it really felt like there was just a real lack of like lore explanation or just like big kind of like story beats beyond, we got to go to this place to do this thing, then we got to go to this place to do this thing. During the kind of final ascension up the monolith at the very end of Act 2, I was like, man, I'm really having a lot of fun with this game's combat system. This game's combat system is great, but like this segment is so incredibly long and so incredibly story light for what should be like an incredibly momentous and important like section of the game vis-a-vis its story. And of course, the game definitely makes up for that with a lot of the reveals that come at the very end of the chapter in the fake epilogue. But yeah, I felt very mixed about all that stuff. I'm sorry I took up 3 hours of your time. I will now cede the floor to everyone else to agree or disagree or pillage me. Thank you for your time.
I don't know. I think after playing this game, and I'll tie it to this in a second, but like I felt so fancy after playing this game. Like it was super French, it was artistic, the music was so cool and classic. I felt pinky in the air after this experience. I was like, oh, I will never get this fancy. And just the fact that like this kind of story like was so unique. Like we don't get a story like this all the time, is something to be cherished. And like the last time I had this kind of like narrative grip me the way it has is like literally the show Arcade. And they're both French. They're both a lot of French involvement here, story vibes. And like to your point of how the story progressed and what you learned about the characters, like not every character, but the ones you thought you knew more about and how it ends up evolving. Like they're just doing all the wrong things for the right reasons and vice versa. And that's what makes it so good. Cause like every character like has a reason, like a good reason to really do the things they're doing. So like as a player, you're just like constantly conflicted yourself. But like at the end, I can't wait to hear what y'all all decided to pick. Cause I hear from other people that play the game, you don't have more than one or the other. It's been 50-50 with a lot of my friends of what we pick. So I can't wait to see what y'all say. I won't open it up to that yet. We'll maybe say it for a second, but that's really my roundabout how I felt about the story. It was cool, edgy.
Yeah, I thought everything about this story was awesome. Like it's really what hooked me to the game. Like when Gustav dies, that was crazy. Like I remember there was a TikTok going around with Charlie Cox saying like, "Oh yeah, I only recorded for 4 hours. That's awesome. Everybody loves that game." And I sent it to the group chat and I was like, "What the fuck? Like he only worked on it for 4 hours?" And Chad just responded, "Joel, play the game." Like, and I was literally like 20 minutes from getting to that scene where he dies. And then once that happened, I was like, "Oh, I'm fucking locked in. I'm seeing this thing through now." From that, you know, that was kind of just like a punch to the jaw to me, right? Because like Jerica said, like there was like pre-order cosmetics for him, right? If you pre-ordered the game,
yeah,
and for them just to kill him like in the first act is kind of crazy. And then just like to finding out that like, you know, the world you're playing in isn't even the real world. It's just all fake, is like, that was like such a mind fuck in the best way to me. Like I've never watched a Twilight Zone, but I assume that's how you feel in some episodes of the Twilight Zone where it's like, wait, what? That's what's happening. Yeah, this story, it hooked me all the way until the end. Yeah, I'm excited to hear what everybody did at the end as well. Chad, you want to talk about the story?
Yeah, all those twists just like made my nipples just perk up as you all were talking about them again. I just loved the whole thing. I also loved how much we talk about, you know, games like BioShock having like this environmental storytelling, and there's so much of that kind of baked into all of the game, but just a lot of the areas that you can finally access in Act 3, including like the place where where Norco comes back to life, or the endless tower, the place where you fight Clea in her workshop and things like that. And it feels weird to me that a lot of that is optional because it adds so much context to everyone's decisions and the way things are, the way that they like the why things are the way that they are. But I just love that every single piece of this was dripping. Even you go to one of those, like, you know, those areas where you enter the destination from the world map and it's literally just a screen with like a record on it. And you're just like, oh, I mean, this is pretty to look at. And then later you come across some story about an expedition and like holy shit, that was like the battlefield where they got all slaughtered in their attempt. And this is how oh my God. And those fucking logs, reading through some of them, like the whole group is like, we're gonna fucking be naked, and that's how we're gonna beat the paintress. Is everyone's completely naked the whole time. And or even the small little like mantras that kind of outline the whole like goal of all the expeditions, you know, the things that are like for those who come after, and like we're setting up things for the success of everyone in the future, and hearing about, oh, this was the expedition that I'm listening to the recording of right now, of they specifically went out to put all the handholds everywhere so that by the time you get there, there are paths for you to go on, and it's not just like, you know, the infamous Second Son. Oh yeah, all these ledges are covered with bird poop, and that's why they're the ones that you can go and grab with your hands, and that's why they're covered in white. And it's all of that like tertiary storytelling I thought was just like so enthralling. And that's what in Act 3 especially, I would just night after night get lost of, I can't wait to just go, there's some new thing on the map that I point myself in a direction, go there and just absorb everything I can about it. It was fantastic.
Yeah,
I think
what are your thoughts on the story?
You know, echoing a lot of the great things everyone's already shared. I think that how the game forces the player to confront grief from like the beginning of the story, you know, with the gommage, with Gustav's death, you're experiencing all this like secondhand pain and anguish, you know, when you're in Act 2 with Verso and the you know, strain with him and with Renoir, then Alicia, Mael kind of like realizing and feeling that grief, and then that being like a central driving force for, you know, Renoir's motivations and all that stuff. I thought was like, you know, I've never really experienced that in a game, like that sort of theme being so constant and so at the forefront. I thought was really interesting and yeah, unexpected. And I think, you know, personally felt a little personal growth there explaining this game, which is weird, you know, because it's like it, you know, as on the nose as it's going to seem, it's like the game is like art experienced, and the medium is a video game. You know, it's a story. It's like all these very interesting, creative, like obviously like authentic decisions made throughout this entire game from the creators. Just really, really one-off experience and really authentic and a very real feeling. So, love the story. And yeah.
All right, so let's get to the end, right? So there's two endings you could have gotten in the game. After all is said and done, you can either choose to fight. It's a fight between Mael and Verso. You could choose to fight as Mael, in which case you'd be fighting to save everybody within the painted world, and to keep Mael in the painted world. As well as to keep kind of the idea of Verso alive, right, within this painted universe. Or you could fight as Verso, which would, you know, you would destroy or, you know, kill, quote unquote, Mael in the painted world, which would then destroy the whole painted world, and Mael would come to terms, you know, with death. So I will say that I chose to play as Mael, and keep everybody alive just because I just fell in love with all the characters within the world. I didn't want to see them die. And upon looking up the endings after the game, it's what everybody's saying is true. This is the bad ending of the game, in my opinion. So
I don't know if I agree it's the bad ending, but it's definitely, you get to the very last like shot of her just like staring at Verso, like, play, puppet, play, and you see her, and it's just like, ooh, this wasn't as like jolly of a reunion with Gustav and all of these people, and CL's has her husband back. It's like, it's not like the everyone's happy-go-lucky kind of reunion that I thought it was going to be, but also there's happiness there.
There's happiness, but she's also like has like that chroma damage right to her, so like it's implied that it's possible that she's going to die in there, right? Which is really sad.
Or like lose her mind, you know, eventually.
Yeah.
Like it does what happened to her mother. So
this is my favorite thing about this game, is this conversation that happens afterwards. This is the one that like I literally stopped whatever I was doing when Audrey beat it, and I just sat on my living room floor and texted with her for an hour about this ending. and it's just like, what is life? What is living? What does it mean to like experience humanity? And I feel like I don't know if I'm 100% either way. I chose Mael at first, and then I went back and I looked up Verso's ending. But I chose Mael just because I feel like that's the better life for her, because she was going to, if she goes out of the painting, she's living a life where she can't speak. She cannot, she's, who knows what she's allowed to do, like legally in this world that we know so little about. Is she allowed to leave the house without, a male escorting her? She's disfigured. Her parents hate her. Her mom blames her for everything. Her sister's a bitch. Who knows if she's like, what quality of life she'll have in that world. And if that's the trade-off, burn all these people who she's grown up with, quote unquote, as Mael in this painting to go be Alicia and suffer for the rest of whatever life she has. Whereas in here, she can live, her parents were in there for at least 67 years, and more so because, the Gomage didn't even start until after a little bit that they had been in there. And like, what's happened after 67 years? They both got a cough and they've got like some paint on their face, and cool. And if they die in like 2 real world years, it doesn't matter because they've already, quote unquote, lived a life in this painting. So for me, any form of happiness for Mael could only really happen in the painting. And I wanted that for her, even if that's not what by today's standards we'd consider like healthy behavior or like escapism. That's what I chose. But I love that, like, I don't feel confidently either way.
Well, to your point, I don't think there's a right ending, because like Verso is just suffering. Like, and it's like constantly suffering with your whole family, like knowing you're dead, like you need to be gone, but your family is like living this fantasy just so you can be alive with them, but the truth. And it's just like, I just felt bad for Verso, just to be suffering.
Both
and knowing
Versos. There's painted Verso who's just like, please let me die. I have nothing left to live for, and I'm bored with life. But then also little boy Verso, because that little like punched hole in his face version of him, like that's the last part of his actual living soul that's continuing to keep this painting alive. And that one, you see, him look up at the end. He's like, please let me die. I'm tired. I'm so tired.
It was a tough. Sorry, I'll just go real quick and say it was a tough decision for me. I ultimately decided to take Mael's side. I knew as I was taking her side that it wasn't an entirely great decision, but like I said earlier, I feel like more of the second act of the game should have sort of been from her perspective, and so this felt like me giving her due, and also being like, look, it may not be perhaps the best decision, but ultimately it is her decision, and who am I to kind of deny her autonomy and her decisions to make, even if they are bad. And so I went with that. It's definitely a pretty tragic ending, and honestly, I think that if I had sided with Verso, I think I probably would have been more satisfied with the ending that he provided, but ultimately my decision will stand.
Jerica, did you say which ending you chose? Verso?
I was like, we got to end this situation, y'all. There's a lot of grieving. Let's just move on. This is not healthy. That's what I felt. Like, this place is not healthy. I hate that this is what has been created, and everyone's suffering because of this imaginary world we've painted. So, like, I was just like, I can't have these people feel this way. And I don't know, like, I'm eager to see where this story could evolve and where it could go, if there's going to be a sequel or more stories in this world, because, like, top level, I don't know how many paintings and painters and paintresses, like, is there other people that are involved in this creation of these universes? Like, I have no clue.
The writers. There's the writers that they confronted at the mansion. Who are the writers? Who are they?
The writers who somehow, convinced, or not convinced, but tricked Alicia into starting the fire that killed her brother in the first place.
I was going to say, it's not very cool of writers to use fire as their means of killing people. It feels like writers of all people would be against things that burn things.
Real quick, before we talk about the future of this franchise, Dave, which ending did you choose and why?
Oh, I chose Verso, and I did not think long about it. Renoir's monologue sold me. I was like, let's well, that's not burn it, but let's get rid of this canvas. Let's bring this family back together. Let's end this like cycle of escapism and addiction and get this family back together. I know Clay is a bitch, but you know, she's I don't know, she seemed all right. It just, I couldn't, and after watching Alicia's or Mael's ending on YouTube, I felt totally vindicated. No offense to everyone who obviously chose differently, but the more I thought about it, especially with like, you know, Verso suffering for eternity, obviously like the little boy in the little pocket world suffering because he's constantly like that exchange, like Mael's happiness within the canvas for Verso's suffering is like an inverse of his sacrifice to save her in the mansion fire. So like, if he sacrifices himself to save her in the mansion fire, and then she chooses to like make him suffer in this imaginary world while she escapes from her family and just doesn't, you know, maintains this void. I just couldn't have that on my save file. You know, that's just not cool.
makes it icky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things I did appreciate about that final choice too is like you make the choice and then during the battle you hear the other person, and this is one thing I actually had to go back and look it up but you hear the other person like continuing to be like, please don't, and they're pleading with you. But one of the things that I hated was that I was like level 98 when I did that final battle finally, and I killed Verso in like 2 hits, so I didn't get to hear him complain and plead a lot. And then once I found out, oh, there's a lot of good dialogue in there, I was like, oh shit, now I got to go back and play it, but pretend I'm not strong.
So Jerica kind of hinted at like what the future of this IP could lead to. This game has like kind of swept, you know, gamers off their feet everywhere, right? Like, yeah, I see it on Twitter probably every day I go on it. Something is still popping up, even though the game's been out for months at this point. I think they sold like, I don't know, 3 million copies or something around the first month, which is quite a bit for, you know, what this game is.
I think it was actually 3 million. Like, this isn't a funny thing. I think it was 3 million in the first 33 days. I think they tweeted out on day 33. They're like, by the way, but that also like doesn't take into account it was on Game Pass at launch too. So
yeah, it was on Game Pass, which is how I played it. And like the community has just kind of ran with the whole French theme. Like, shout out to Kayla from JK Games, who literally cosplayed this weekend at a convention as Mael, just wearing like the beret and the, you know, striped shirt and
so
the
good.
You know, suspenders.
It was a surprise. I didn't know what her costume was going to be this year, and I saw it and I was like, oh shit.
Yeah, it was really good. Really good. So yeah, what do you guys think the future of this IP could be? I feel like, I don't know, like this game was such a mind fuck. I don't know how they could fuck my mind any more than they already did, right? Like what do we think a future game could have in it to kind of, I don't know, hold up to the reputation that this game has done already?
I hope they know my mind is open for business. It's open for all the banging, because I didn't make it clear enough in my playthrough, but I am ready to go deeper. I love when you're so zoomed in to what you think you're playing, and then, you know, halfway through the game, it's a completely different kind of story. You're like, wow, there's things beyond that are bigger than me. So I am eager to see like how massive this world can be, and like, can they go even further with it, make it even more off the walls? Like, let me have I want to have a tough time wrapping my head around what's going on. And I think that's fun. It creates way better conversation. So yeah, I want to know about the writers and like who's to say that these paintings, the places that maybe y'all picked in Mael's ending, like, could that be a reality in this place? Like, maybe they're just not trying hard enough, or they don't have a writer on their side. I don't know. So I'm eager to see, like, I'm glad I don't have to write for the next game, because I have no clue. I have no ideas other than bigger, better, more things, more characters. I'm always down for that.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those situations where like there are a million different directions that they could take things. One thing that I think could be very interesting to see is a game that has a similar scenario where it takes place entirely within a simulated reality, but the protagonist of the game is aware of the fact that they are in a simulated reality and they themselves are a painter or a writer or what have you, someone in a position of power who can manipulate that reality. And I think that there's an interesting thread to be pulled on of this character effectively being God in the reality in which they live in, and them wrestling with the moral consequences of manipulating and changing and controlling the characters and world around them, and you know what it does to their psyche and soul as they do so.
And like just the ramifications of like what has happened in this game, like who's pissed off about the choice we made, and should someone be mad? Like destroying a painting, is that a bad thing? Can you do that? Like, is that a rule? Are we breaking a rule here? Are we going to get arrested by the God writer? I don't know.
The God writer.
I am the director Guillaume last week said that this is a franchise. Specifically, Clair Obscur is the franchise.
Yeah.
And they don't know what the future looks like as far as like what games are in that. I get this feeling that this is what we see from these characters in this world right now. Like that's all we're gonna get, and part of that is like really fascinating to me, and I love it. Part of me is like, oh, but I would love another game that explains XYZ or goes in this direction. But I think what I do really want is just this team with the music skills that they've got and the storytelling, and like I want this team to just create more Clair Obscur stories about light and dark and all the gray areas in between and these weird human choices and grief. Like I want to just like, what does that look like in a different context with an equally weird premise? And maybe if we continue to get more about Expedition 33 in that world, maybe it's like a Netflix anime series or whatever, like something else. I don't like, there's a big chunk of me that's like, I don't think we're going to get another game with these characters, but I would love other types of media to explore different pieces of that world.
They might do like, to your point, we mentioned Twilight Zone earlier. Like, what if it is like a different just story each time? This is the thing we tell, but like, yeah, and I'm also for it. I think that'd be really cool to see.
I was going to say, do a TV series where each episode is about a different expedition team. You start at Expedition 00, and then it's like, now it's Expedition 91, then it's Expedition 84, then it's the expedition where everyone was naked. Maybe not that one, because that might not be allowed on TV. But there's a lot of potential there, I think.
And they
that
could be really cool. Short, too. That's me like
Expedition 69.
I thought you meant
that's
the naked
the one I
want
to be on.
I think... maybe a little bit of all that stuff. Obviously this family is like very wealthy. They're 1%ers in their world. What's it like to be like, blue collar in their world, and you get a little picture frame, and you just get a little bit of paint, a little bit of chroma, and you're like diving in these little smaller pocket universes within the larger spaces, or I don't know.
This is sort of like... I was going to say, take a page out of Persona 5's book where you're living in like the normal reality that they all live in, and then you enter into these simulated worlds to accomplish some sort of goal or fight something or what have you.
I'm really fascinated. Like, we've talked about painters, and then like, oh, what is it like for writers? But like other types of art form, you see a little bit of verso occasionally, and piano, and how his mom was actually a little bit disappointed that he was really interested in piano and not so much painting. And I'm like, what does that look like to have a world? Like, you can write a story with words and that creates a world. You can paint something and that creates a world. But like, what is it like to create a world with music and composition? That's something that doesn't have language or like visual representation. That's like a really other cool thing.
Imagine
I would
the
love
type
to
of
explore.
Gameplay mechanics with that, like you're like attacking with music, how badass that would look, and how cool that you could like listen for the, like, obviously there was sound involved with like listening to your enemies and knowing when like to dodge or attack or whatever, but like music could take it to the other level. Ooh, got an idea there. I like it.
Whatever it is, I really hope they still dive into the whole French aspect of things.
Oh,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Please stay French. Please.
I think
Extra
I want
French.
mimes to be the through line of all of them. Because the
Did
mimes
any of
even
you
got
guys-
like a little like why are they here? Why is Verso painting mimes everywhere that are super hard to kill? But like I think they could be the alien species that is in every single one of these.
I was going to ask, did you guys kill any of the mimes? How's it done? I never
Oh,
got
yeah.
around to killing
Yeah.
them.
Yeah,
How do
you
you do
just
it?
break them.
You fight them.
Yeah.
Yeah. They
Okay.
they just as soon as you break them like with Mael. Like
break,
I did it with
like
Mael,
as in
like break
the
them
status
like
ability.
the
Got it.
stagger.
Yeah,
Yeah,
stagger.
as soon as you do that,
Right.
then they become super weak. Yeah,
Okay.
And they only have
and that's how
two
you get.
attack patterns.
They're all cosmetics for all of them too. And especially there was this one spot in Act 3 where you have to go solo mimes with each character to get their bald cosmetics, so that everyone can. And seeing Minoko bald in a tuxedo is so funny.
Before we close out this episode, do we want to do a little segment called Voice Actor Factor?
Oh yeah, bring out the spiders.
Chad, sing us in.
Spider-Man does whatever a spider can.
And it's the Voice Actor Factor, the segment on this podcast formerly known as Voice Actor Trivia. I changed the name up because I thought that Voice Actor Trivia was a little too generic. What I love about this game's cast is that it's either a pretty prolific actor that we all know, or it's someone who's barely appeared in anything that is just getting their career off the ground, and they are all genuinely great. I really love this game's cast. Gustav, of course, we've already talked about him a little bit, is voiced by Charlie Cox. He's, of course, Matt Murdock and Daredevil in the MCU / larger Netflix Marvel universe. This is the only video game that he has appeared in. Hopefully it won't be his last.
Cozy,
Yes.
I know you do a little bit of research.
Yes.
Will anybody tell us why Robert Pattinson was cast and then replacing that? Because it's so clearly fucking Robert Pattinson. Like, it's not even a joke. It's not
Yeah.
even a joke. It's Robert Pattinson.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll have to look into that for next time. Lune, or Lune, is voiced by Kirsty Ryder. She's an actress that has appeared in a lot of TV shows, such as Space Pirates, The Sandman, and The Girl Before. But she has also appeared in one other video game. She voices Kuroki and Shiroizu in, can anyone guess the game?
Super Mario Land 2 the 6 golden coins on Game
That
Boy.
is incorrect. It is Sifu. She voices those two characters in Sifu. Mael is voiced by Jennifer English. She's an actress that has appeared in a smattering of movies and TV, but is mostly known for her video game credits, such as voicing Leia in Divinity Original Sin 2, Latenna in Elden Ring, Carlota in Wuthering Waves, and your favorite, Adam, Shadowheart in Baldur's Gate
I would say
3.
if you didn't say Shadowheart, I was literally going to leave the call.
I was saving that for the end. CL is voiced by Shalyn Nix. Like Jennifer English, she's appeared in a smattering of movies and TV, but is mostly known for her other video game credits. She voices Farida Nazari in Cyberpunk 2077, Phantom Liberty. She voices Bess Law in Banisher, Ghosts of New Eden. And she also voices both Carl-Lorena the Wolf. Maybe you can help me out with this one, Adam. Carl-Lorena the Wolf. I'm pretty sure that's how it's pronounced. And Cena the Brook Seller in Baldur's Gate 3 as well.
I mean,
Did I get that correct?
No, those are ancillary characters that are like, oh, I show up one time. So no, that's
Okay.
not a main character that I remember.
SKA is voiced by Maxence Carzorla. I'm pretty sure that's how it's pronounced. Has only appeared in a smattering of other credits. He did play Magneto in Logan the Wolf, a Wolverine fan film. Shout out to that. Verso is voiced by Ben Starr. Of course, he's appeared on TV shows like Jamestown and You and Me, but of course, we all know him for his video game appearances, such as voicing Arthur Nightingale in Warframe, Kazan in the first Berserker Kazan, Prometheus in Hades 2, and I'm sure there's a lot of other games that I'm probably forgetting. Oh yeah, and he voices, what's his name? Clive Rosefield in some game called Final Fantasy XVI. Chad, do you know about this game?
Yeah,
I'm
the John
unfamiliar.
Wayne version, we say it's 16.
Got it. Minoko, voiced by Rich Keeble. Guy has a lot of credits across movies and TV and video games. He portrayed Mr. Arnold in the TV show Good Omens. He's also appeared on Ted Lasso as Clive Winkleman. In terms of video games, he's voiced a lot of stuff. There's not a lot that super stands out, but he did voice Fenrico in Wuthering Waves, and he is the Mouth of Sauron in Lord of the Rings Gollum. I'll say I'd imagine he probably appreciates having a significantly higher rated game on his resume now. And finally, Renoir, the father, voiced by the one and only Andy Serkis. Of course, you know him for portraying Gollum in Lord of the Rings, Caesar in the Planet of the Apes movies, and Snoke in the Star Wars sequel movies. But the guy has, of course, a few other video game credits as well. Obviously, outside of voicing Gollum in the other Lord of the Rings video games, he also was the voice of Monkey in Ninja Theory's Enslaved Odyssey to the West, as well as he also sort of appeared as himself later in the game. That's a little spoilery. He also voiced King Bohan in Heavenly Sword, and he appeared in Volume, the Mike Biffle game, as Guy Gisborne. And that is all for the voice actor factor. Joel, is there anything else we want to discuss before we close out today's episode?
No, I think that's everything. I mean, first of all, thanks Dave and Jerica for joining to talk about Expedition 33. Yeah, I don't know. Cozy, you want to close us out?
All right, I will do that. Wait, hold on. Before I close myself out, I meant to introduce him at the beginning of the episode. We actually had a third special guest joining us for the entirety of this episode. I forgot to do his introduction at the beginning, so I'm going to do it now. This right here, anybody know what this character is called?
Oh, that's Gordo the Bionicle.
Yeah.
His name's Gordo.
Hold on. He first appeared in the game Frogger, the next one. What was the name of that game from
Frogger, he's back.
He's back. That's it. Yeah.
No, he is a Bionicle. You got that part correct. This is Axon with two N's. He was part of the 2006 line of Bionicles. He's a guy with a giant axe that basically causes all sorts of trouble on the island of Voya Nui. And I figured that he would be on this episode, considering that this is a game about other Axons. And with that, we've arrived at the end.
Hold on. One last thing. September BARF.
Oh, that's right.
We are right now
Chad,
on
take the floor.
Patreon. We are completely split between Power Wash Simulator and Pokemon Snap N64, and I can't choose.
Let's let Dave choose.
Dave, what do you want us to play? Power Wash Simulator or Pokemon Snap N64?
How would you play? So does everyone have an N64?
It's on Nintendo
Or would
Switch
you do
Online.
it with like a emulator? Or okay, power washing for sure.
All right, Power Wash Simulator it is. Gonna spray off some Final Fantasy Shinra bikes with
Power Wash
VR Power Washer
Simulator
really
is your
game.
BARF game for the month of September. Looking forward to playing that. And with that, we have arrived at the end of tonight's BARF review. As was said at the top of the show, remember, as always, that you can catch regular episodes of the Respawning Fire podcast live on twitch.tv/Respawning Fire. No longer Affable Idiots, it's now Respawning Fire. Every Monday evening at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, as well as on YouTube and podcast services the following Wednesday. And of course, you can look forward to this episode going up on YouTube and podcast services soon as well. Jerica, Dave, thank you so much once again for joining us on this episode. Jerica, where can people find your work online? Is there anything coming up that you'd like to plug?
Not really. I'm trying to play Tears of the Kingdom. That's going to happen at some
Still?
point. Yeah, I have like 4 or 5 more hours, maybe less. Yeah, there's a lot going on in that game, more than I realized. So, but you can find out when I'm doing that. JK Games Podcast. You can find us on Twitch and all the socials. JK Games Podcast. Check me out there with Kayla.
Hell yeah. And Dave, anywhere that we can find you online, anything that you are up to that we should know about?
New York Times games. There's a new one
Ooh.
called Pips. It's super fun. It's a little puzzle game with dominoes. That's about the extent of my online gaming right now. And you can find me on LinkedIn, you know.
Hell yeah.
Super
The
professional.
best
I
of
love
the
that.
social media sites. And with that, We'd like to thank you once again for tuning in to Respawning Fire. We'll see you next time.